So this is the first time I've made a video for my website. I thought it would be quite interesting to make one and maybe talk a little bit about the type of therapy that I use and the type of therapist that I think I am and how I work. I think that there's a lot of information out there when you're looking for a therapist or looking for a particular type of therapy, and I think I hear more and more from people that can become overwhelming because there's a wealth of different schools and different styles, and people work differently and value and prioritise different things. And I certainly know that when I undertook my training and I was deciding which kind of therapy I wanted to study, that it got quite confusing looking at different options and trying to work out what was gonna work for me. And I think that when choosing a therapist, it's the same principle. Really, you need a little bit of an overview. I think first and foremost, I work relationally. I've had some relational training, and I've also had some classical training. The school of psychotherapy that I come from is transactional analysis. It's a style and a school that appeals to me because I think that there's a lot there to grasp hold of, and it's really easily communicated to someone that maybe has not much information, not much experience of therapy. And I certainly know that from my training. There were a lot of concepts there that were really rich and visual, and I felt like I could grasp hold of those. And that's been important to me when working with clients, that there's something that I can transfer, and I think that can be really valuable to have that kind of insight and understanding. So having said that, I primarily use the relational style of transactional analysis. What this means for me as a therapist is that I place a huge importance and emphasis on the relationship that we create in the room, the client and the therapist. And I use that information and that relationship to inform a lot of the work that we go on to do and the style and the shape that the therapy really takes. Relational to me also means looking at the relationship somebody has with their past, with people in their past, with events in their past, and then look at how that relationship informs the present. And that can be really beneficial for people looking at why they do the things they do, how come they respond in certain ways, maybe learnt behaviours or habits, thoughts, feelings that are familiar. It's always quite important, I think, to look to the past to inform the work of the therapy. So they're the two main areas in which I would use the relationship. I also think it's important to look at the relationship that we have with our bodies. I've worked, for example, recently with quite a few clients that present with, or have presented with a lot of anxiety. And when dealing with something like anxiety, I think it's really important to look at how your body responds and how our body relates to what's going on for us, and to look at some of the feelings that arise from that, and that can be incredibly powerful and incredibly beneficial work. I also like to work integratively. What this largely means is that I don't really follow a set plan or adhere to certain principles or techniques or a style of therapy. It's more about using things, material, techniques, styles that are going to benefit the person sitting in front of me. And sometimes that's things that I would deem beneficial or think could be beneficial for that person, things I've found useful myself, things that we could maybe explore together. And again, I think that's working relationally largely, because I'm basing what shape the therapy is taking on the person that's sat in front of me, and that's primarily what's important to me. Integrative therapy is also about looking at integrating the various parts of ourselves. So integrating anxiety with the rest of the person, integrating depression with the rest of the person, integrating past trauma or past experiences, even integrating the past with the present, to create a greater sense of wholeness. And I've had a lot of comprehensive and well-rounded training in transactional analysis, and I want to account for that. That's generally largely the style I use. I also, on occasion, use some CBT style techniques, and again, transactional analysis is rich with those, I think. Sometimes I think it can be really important to do something immediate, or to provide some context in that way, especially if someone is struggling. What that can do is allow someone to maybe feel like they have a bit more control, or they can manage something that's going on for them in the here and now, which can then allow us to move on and maybe do some of the deeper work, some of the exploratory work, some of the child work, some of the past and experiential work that psychotherapy is full of, and it's really important. So I hope that's given an overview of some of the things that are important to me. And my clock's going to chime. And I think that's all I really want to say, ominously. I don't want to talk much more about myself, but I do think it's important to take into account what a therapist is and who and how they work when you're looking for a therapist. And having said I chose the style of training I chose because I connected with the material, I also want to emphasise that what really swayed me to become a part of that school and to do the training that I did was the connection that I felt with my trainer, the style that he had and the person that he was, and how I felt and responded to him. And I don't think I would have been so drawn to participating in that kind of training unless I'd felt that connection with someone. And again, that's about a relationship, and that's what's important. So if you've watched this and you've taken anything from it, thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions confidentially if you want to know a little bit more, or if you're curious about what therapy is or how it could be beneficial for you. Please feel free to contact me, and like I said, I will answer questions confidentially.